The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Olas Media, its sponsors, advertisers, affiliates, or any entities they represent.
Olas Media. March and Ash presents Hilariously Blunt with Walter Ford. From the hottest up-and-coming comedians to legends of the game, enrolled with some of the world's finest cannabis brands. This is Hilariously Blunt with Walter Ford.
So good to meet you, Steve. I'm Walter. What brings you to March and Ash?
It was the people that brought me back and the beauty of this dispensary. I felt so comfortable here right off the bat.
Really?
In every dispensary that you go into, it's the people and how they act. At my age and the Grateful Dead, my background, we were living in a world where this was a dream.
And now you got a whole pre-roll named after you.
Do you know what that
The Big
means to me?
Steve.
Do you know what that means to me?
Tell me this isn't like a Apple store for weed. It's like
Well, yes, that's a very good way to put it.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Walter Ford with the Hilariously Blunt podcast, sponsored by March and Ash. We appreciate everybody coming here for the funnies and the cannabis. Right now, I got a legend in the building. When I tell you a legend, he's pretty much one of the pioneers of why we can smoke weed legally. When I tell you this man has seen every venue, every nook and cranny of America, 2 legendary bands. I'm telling you, this man pretty much is a historical figure sitting next to me. The one, the only, Big Steve Parish. Welcome.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you. Great to be here. I want to say that becoming a legend is something in your own mind or what people tell you. And you can live up to it if you really are one. If you're not, it comes out quick.
you get figured out.
Cracks on you come out real fast if you try to fake that. And so I would never say, what I call myself is king of the roadies, because we tried so many times to change that term for people that help working with bands, but it always stuck, roadies. The English band started it. We used to call ourselves quippies or equipment managers, all these nice things.
Give it like a little nickname.
Roadie's a thing. And so
Who are you a roadie for? I didn't say that on purpose because I wanted you to go ahead and let us know.
Well, you know, there was a place called San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. San Fran.
And throughout history, there are certain areas where the magic of the universe conglomerates and squeezes down. And so the Haight-Ashbury was a neighborhood in San Francisco that was an old artist colony. But the hippies became, and that was invented in San Francisco by a local columnist who started calling people hippies because it came from beatniks who were before that, see?
And this is the 60s, 70s?
This is the 60s.
60s.
Early 60s.
Okay, I was
Now-
swimming in my dad's ball sack. Okay, yep. He was swimming in his dad's ball
At least your dad was nice enough to say you were swimming. My dad said to me, "You're one load I should have shot in the sink."
I'm weak as that.
But anyway, that was when he was mad at me. And so anyway,
Showed up on some, yeah.
but he was blunt, my father. Man, a few words and other ways of dealing with you. But
yeah.
I'm glad I was raised that way. because
Exactly.
Everything that happened in my life made it perfect for me to fall into what I did. So the Haight-Ashbury was where everybody conglomerated who had these different thoughts. Mm-hmm. Your choices were 2, jail, Vietnam, or party.
That's great. That's a crazy like concept to think about. You
had
either
no-
gonna shoot a gun, drink some liquor,
Well, I
or
was
fight.
a street kid.
Oh,
I mean,
you was a gangster back in the day. Okay.
my buddy Louie, who was here with me, came in. We grew up together. You know, we were 12 years old. We'd sneak out. Imagine that now, in the middle of the night.
That is wild.
We'd climb out where
Thinking
our
about
folks-
sneaking out at
Where
12.
folks were sleeping, and
Yeah.
we just roam the streets of the city.
That's
And we
crazy to think
learned
about.
And met people. We weren't afraid of anything.
Yeah.
Such a great time.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you learned all the street drugs and all that stuff. And
No,
how to deal with them.
you better pick it up real fast.
You better pick it up
you better
fast,
learn
because you're
something
gonna make
quick.
a mistake if you don't.
Exactly.
And I made lots of mistakes. Now, if you read my book, you see how many mistakes we made.
What's the book called?
Home Before Daylight, because that was what our dream was. If we got home before the sun came up, we were happy.
I love
We
that.
used to call it, you get back to the cave, we got to get back to the cave, let's go. You know, we were like that. But we were night and day people. The Grateful Dead was something different. It was the epitome of what the Haight-Ashbury meant.
Exactly.
Now,
Real quick, I don't. Just to pause. I want y'all to know this man was a roadie for the Grateful Dead, the legendary band.
Well, yes.
Legendary. And I know
also-
you were more than that.
I was the youngest guy at the time. I was just turned 18.
Wait, are you for real?
Yeah, and the other guys were a little older than me. The other guys who were crewing and working on
Yeah.
the stuff. And the band was a little older than that even, except for Bobby Weir, who was just 2 years older than me. So we had a place called Alembic in San Francisco where I was just standing on the street and I helped a guy. I saw a guy unloading a truck and he was struggling with a bass cabinet. I didn't even know what that was. But my father, seventh son of a seventh son, Walter, he told me one day, he looked at me and he said, one day you're going to go and do a simple act of kindness and help somebody. You'll change your whole life.
Oh, he was a philosopher, is what you're
Because
saying.
it
He was a
happened to
philosopher.
him. It happened to him.
Yep.
So he was putting me into that way.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah. He kind of like spoke it to existence, like that
Right.
law of attraction shit.
Right,
Like he kind of
exactly.
brought it to like fruition.
And everything he said came true. So I walk over to help this guy, and he was struggling with his cabinet. And I said, and he showed me right away how you lift it. And we walked it into this building. I lived across the street. I came down to smoke a cigarette.
What?
And we came in there, and it was a studio.
Like a music studio,
A music
like professional
you
music
bet.
studio.
And the Grateful Dead were recording Working Man's Dead, this great, iconic album. Mm-hmm. Now, Ramrod's partner, we called him, Ramrod was the guy's name.
Okay, Ramrod was the
He
guy you were
became
helping,
my
right?
mentor.
Okay.
He was a little older than me, but also he was born in Pendleton, Oregon, way country.
He
boy.
out there, yeah. He burned.
Country
I'm from Indiana,
boy.
so he like burned.
You got
I know
it.
what you're talking about, yeah.
Except they were solid cowboy.
Oh, like
strong
boots
country.
and hats and
You got it.
The chest walking like.
And now Johnny Hagen was his buddy and helping him.
Mm-hmm.
Now Hagen's rolling on the floor in the studio. I look at him and he says, "You got to help me because Johnny's out." I said, "What's wrong with him?" There was a man named Augustus Stanley Owsley.
Real quick, he was rolling on the floor as far as like.
I'll explain it.
Okay.
This is 1968, just turning 67, just turning into 68.
Okay. Yep.
So everybody was experimenting with psychedelics.
Oh, like we were talking about off.
And our mentor, Ramrod's mentor, Ramrod was my mentor, but his mentor was Owsley. Now, Owsley was a guy, I could talk about him for hours, but he was a Renaissance man. He
was like ahead of the game. Like he was
he
ahead
didn't
of his
start
time.
that way. He's born in Kentucky. His grandfather was a state senator.
Oh.
His mother's side of the family, they made old granddad whiskey. So he was a smart guy.
Yeah. He came from some little money and some.
But
little
he broke away, ran off, and he joined the Air Force. Then he joined the Navy. And then he became a ballet dancer. in
Wait,
LA.
what?
Oh, yeah.
He threw grenades and shotguns and
You
then he-
got it, pal. And then he wound up in the Haight-Ashbury like everybody did.
Yeah.
And so he was a chemist also. And he started experimenting. You see, what we took in those days was,
And real quick, were you smoking cannabis yet?
of course.
Okay.
I'd
Everybody's
already
smoking
been
cannabis.
deep
at the
in
time.
it by then.
Yeah, exactly. You 18.
Because
Everybody's smoking.
Cannabis all in those days came from Mexico. But it was
and this
not
is before you had places like March and Ash where you could just walk in,
Oh,
say
before-
hello, let me get the Big Steve PreRoll,
exactly.
shake their hand,
Way
pay with a debit
before
card,
March and Ash.
pay with a debit card. Like,
But what other musicians in San Francisco, and one of the guys that we played with in the clubs, I was just going to get to that how.
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
was so young, I was eager to work, man.
and real quick, because you were so young in this situation, oops, sorry about that. Did you feel like you were making history? Like in the moment, like did
never.
you
No,
did you
we were
understand
living
the
every
severity?
day, and it was just one party to the next.
Exactly. That's
And we didn't
crazy
realize what
to
was
think about.
happening. And then when I tell
crazy.
some more of the story, it is crazy.
Yeah.
Because Owsley was experimenting. And who did he experiment on but the people that were around?
And everybody in the exactly.
So in those days, the pranksters, now that's Ken Kesey and these guys, in 1960, early 60s, they went across America in a Dayglow painted bus, blew America's mind.
And this is a band. The
No, this is the Merry Pranksters. They were something different.
Now, what did they do exactly? Like when you
They
say
took
the pranksters?
LSD and went across America. and
Just
drove
driving?
into
Just driving
town.
on LSD?
Yeah. And so the cops in those days would stop them, and they go, "What is this?" They couldn't figure it out
Because they don't know what it is. Oh, this is when it first
LSD
came
was
out.
not illegal yet.
I see
so
what you mean. That's a big
They
difference.
couldn't figure out.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was a guy named Neil Cassidy. All these beatniks. You see, they were the beatniks now moving somewhere new.
Exactly.
Garcia, Phil Lesh.
Jerry Garcia, by the way,
Jerry
if y'all don't know.
Garcia,
Yep.
Phil Lesh, the Grateful Dead guys, Pigpen. All of them were started by hanging out in coffee shops in North Beach in San Francisco.
In San Fran. Yeah.
That was what was happening then. Those were where people smoked pot.
And this is like the time. I feel like it was like a renaissance in that
was
era.
starting.
It was like
Poets were coming there writing.
creative
Comedians
renaissance.
were coming to town. Mort
Exactly.
Saul, all these old comedians.
And this was before rock was like a thing, right? This was before it was like a
there was rock.
mainstream.
There was rock because, you see, when we were raised in the 50s,
Mm-hmm.
the 50s was straight. All our dads had fought World War II, been in the Depression when they grew up. They were hard people. So they didn't put up with no nonsense.
Yeah. That it was that strong chins.
When you went to a barber shop, there was only one haircut you got, a crew cut.
That's crazy.
You looked just like a Marine coming out of boot.
Everybody
And
looked like
so,
me, myself, and Irene.
We hated it. But so it was so straight that there had to be a bounce back.
Yeah.
And that started with the long hair, and the beatniks were at the heart of it. But they were changing too because
Exactly.
we were becoming the new generation now, new things to do.
Yeah, and the youth. I feel like
So
the youth
the
is where the energy.
pranksters were the bridge between that, see? And they were taking acid because Kesey wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He was a great writer, and he wrote sometimes a great notion.
That dude is the dude that wrote the one that flew over the cuckoo's nest?
And he was our boy, man. He was our man. And
That's
those guys and
crazy.
the Grateful Dead and the Pranksters were one. That's how Ramrod came down. to the
That
Grateful
makes
Dead.
sense.
Because Johnny Hagen, brother, was Kesey's college roommate.
And it all
Now-
comes together. And I feel like it's wild that like
That's right.
you guys were in like a creative space doing things that made you be extra creative. You know what I'm saying? Like
So these things started called acid tests, where you get an audience in there, right? And everybody would take acid and the band would play, but nobody could figure out what the hell was going on. And so one of the acid tests that was so famous, and I wasn't there, but they told me about it right away, was called the Watts acid test, okay? And so that was the only kind of place they would let hippies and be.
that was like y'all area. Like this was like y'all
Oh,
place.
that's okay. You guys can use Watts, do whatever you want. there.
Yeah.
There's a shack. I just went there 2 weeks ago. There was a shack by the railroad tracks next to the Watts Towers. So we went in there and just set up the shit. I wasn't there, but this is what it was.
Yeah, of
happened.
course.
They
Yeah.
set up the music and they started playing. And all of a sudden the LAPD says, what the hell is going on out there? So they decide to raid the place. They pull up in full glory.
Of course. You
So
know.
the pranksters.
I wanna
were
talk to you
running
about that,
it.
too.
The pranksters are running it. Kesey and Ken Babbs. Now Ken Babbs was a colonel, a captain in Vietnam. You know, he flew helicopters.
Damn!
And then he now came back. Oh, Paige Browning. One day, these guys. It was a blend of things in your life.
Yeah,
Things were
exactly.
just in a transition flux area.
Exactly.
So you still had to play the game.
Yeah. You have to stay in the
And
parameters.
Are you kidding? You get pulled over, and the FBI want to see your draft card.
That's fucking wild. That's next level too. We got to talk
We'll
about
get to
that.
all this.
Yeah.
This is going to be a 5-hour podcast.
Oh, I already know. Yeah, I already know. And I'm at work still right now too, technically. So I work at March and Ash too, like as an employee. So
Well, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I
man.
know. We in here.
That is my dream come true to see that. Spending all how we chased and ran around.
Exactly.
In those days, one joint of marijuana was 10 years in San Quentin. I'm not kidding.
That's crazy.
And Neil Cassidy, who was another character, he was written in the book On the Road. He was like our guy we looked up to for life. There's so much. We'd have to write a book.
I know, right? We're going to have to get episode 2
So
and 3 here.
he had to go. He wrote a book called The First Third, because if you're good behavior and you went to San Quentin for 10 years, which he did, for 2 damn roaches in North Beach, he got caught.
10 years?
Yeah, but you do the first third if you're good behavior. So he got out and he wrote
3.5
this
or
book.
3.
He wrote a great book about his life. I read it right away.
Of course.
So then what's happening is the scenes come together. So here we are at the Watts acid test back there. And this story was legendary to me. It changed my thinking about it.
And this is what kind of brought you, or I guess, is this...
It made me know I was home.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say.
And
This made you know you were in the right place at the right time in the right situation, right people.
So what we were taking in those times was Sandoz, made pharmaceutically. LSD was made in Switzerland, and it came in sealed bottles.
That's crazy. Y'all getting
And
legal drug?
It was a green pill, and you could break it in 4 little sections on it.
Yeah.
So we didn't know. We took the whole thing.
Exactly.
But whatever. But it was so pure, so good, and it enlightened your mind. It opened your mind. So here we are. All these people are taking acid. The cops pull up, and they pour in like they do with their sticks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're in there.
Ready to fucking pop everybody. So fast enough it happened. They went speeding around. The roadie that worked for the band at that time was Jerry's boyhood friend named Laird Grant. We called him Barney because he looked like Barney Rubble. So he ran around back. He's so smart. He ran out the back door, opened the back doors, and everybody poured out, all the hippies.
Genius. Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
he went around this way, and he took a broom handle and stuck it in
the door, so it was locked, and everybody went out the back.
Everybody got out, and then he closed those doors again.
Life was wild before
So the cops were in there all by themselves,
That's
right?
fucking crazy. Life was wild before technology, G.
So Jerry tells me, I said, what'd you do? He said, I just booked it, man. And there's the railroad tracks are right there. I went there telling you 2 weeks ago, it's all right there.
Yeah, I can't imagine Jerry Garcia running at full speed,
You
like
bet.
with a
He
guitar in his
seldom
hand.
ran.
Like,
He ran his ass off. Oh, they left everything.
oh, okay. Yeah, obviously.
And so him and Bobby were running down the tracks, and they got their head down in the dark. And I don't know if people know what the Watts Towers are, but they were something that we knew about and built by a guy, one man, couldn't be knocked down by the city of L.A. Bam! They hit their heads right on it, and fucking Jerry gets cut. Everybody, they fall down, but they got away.
Yeah, exactly. We everybody.
So
was
these
saying.
things then turned into the acid tests, and we started them in San Francisco. They were everywhere, Muir Beach, Longshoremen's Hall.
Now, real quick, I know we're talking about the acid test, but tell me about cannabis though, because that's kind of why we're here. So tell me
cannabis was everywhere.
Were y'all doing it everywhere?
Cannabis was what we all did
Yeah.
all day long. That was it wasn't even like a drug to us. We thought it was a helpful thing. And so we really wanted people to understand that it was safe.
And you used to do it back in the day where it was like, I want to say super illegal. Like you said, 10 years at San Quentin.
God.
And you used to drive through the South, right? Like the
Wherever we went, we were the enemy, and we had to fight the police, and we had to fight the stagehands union.
That's crazy.
We had to fight with every straight person at hotels.
You're right. You are
We
black.
had hair down to our shoulders, and we're smoking weed, and we're wearing these tie-dye shirts, all colorful, and they couldn't understand. It was like wherever you went, it was like, what?
What is going on?
The
Yeah,
worst
it was
thing
like a new
going to truck stops across America.
truck stops. Really?
Truck stops, truckers were all like, they had flags tattooed. They were ready. At that time, it was.
I know what you mean.
Why aren't you boys in Vietnam?
It's the same type of guys now. They just like the different stuff. I know what you mean.
But they didn't understand one thing about us. Me and Kid Candelario from Oakland, we were street kids.
Yeah.
The rest of the guys, Ramrod, Donald Rex Jackson, Johnny Hagan, were tough cowboys.
Now, real quick, is this a very nice way of saying that y'all can fight?
Yes. Well, we had a saying. If we don't, we're either gonna fight or fuck tonight. And that
Yo,
was it.
weak as hell.
Because our job was so beautiful. What it became was to bring the Grateful Dead to the world.
Exactly.
See the hippies everywhere that were blossoming in every state.
Exactly.
And then also we started riding motorcycles.
Oh, y'all doing next level stuff.
And also a place called Altamont was this show that happened. And at Altamont, the Hells Angels were our friends, you see, and they were everybody's friends. The Jefferson Airplane, all the bands in San Francisco.
Exactly.
Janis Joplin's boyfriend was a Hells Angel.
That's a really good story. Do you feel like having all those experiences, being on the road, being the manager of the Jerry Garcia band,
right?
Do you feel any similarities of that industry and the cannabis industry and transferring over into being with Grizzly Peak?
I cannot tell you enough what it means for me to see how this was a dream for us to progress to the level of March and Ash. This place has it down to the epitome of what it should be. everybody that works in dispensaries has a smile on their face.
Yep.
And I always go and shake their hand, each person, each bud tender, each person that works there. You know why? Because they're the front line of this.
Exactly.
And when somebody comes in there and talks, I've watched it a million times. They want to know. A lot of people are trying it for the first time.
Exactly.
Now.
Exactly.
And they want to know, what can I have? They want to know, what's the strongest? What's this? What should I start with?
For my situation, I want to go to sleep. I want to wake up.
And the bud tender gets the responsibility. So that's the front line of bringing. You see, I was telling you earlier out on the street, they followed us all around on tour, and I was the guy they had to come to because everybody knew who had the weed. It was the crew.
Exactly.
And, in the early days, Jerry would buy Thai weed and all these exotic pot.
Was it good at least, or was it like brick weed?
Well, don't ever believe what
cannabis.
they tell you, that the weed is stronger now than ever. That is nonsense. Weed
I believe
can only
it.
get so strong.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
we tried it all over the world. Wherever we went, the weed came to us. And the Haight-Ashbury smugglers came from the whole world.
That's
They brought
crazy.
The best stuff, and they came to the Grateful Dead shows because all the other bands were falling for TV shows,
Exactly.
radio.
Yeah.
We were this sprawling party called these acid tests.
And you traveled
we stuck
with that.
to it.
Yeah.
And we started traveling then after we established ourselves in the Bay Area. And we were bold because we were brave, man.
And do
we
you feel
would
like
change it?
Do you feel like the Big Steve PreRoll embodies that? Like the boldness,
boy.
the Big Steve PreRoll.
I'll
Tell me
you
about
something.
that. Yeah.
When we would drive from San Francisco to LA to do shows, I would roll 8 joints for the ride. One for every 50 miles.
You would roll 8 Big Steve joints on the way.
Right, but what we grew, we
course.
grew homegrown, and we had a great supply of people doing this for us.
Yeah,
And
of course.
The weed of the seeds that we brought back from the whole world came to Northern California. And our friends were hippies. They went up in the hills of Mendocino, Humboldt, Sonoma.
Oh, that's where the
and
real weed is at.
We were on the road, but they grew weed.
But that's where
As long as you kept your mouth shut, the cops didn't hear about your strains. So anyway, we had the best weed always around us. So when we're smoking it everywhere, boy, you walk into Cleveland, you're blowing a joint, they want to call the cops right away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, off top. Yeah, immediately. And Alabama, too, probably.
Alabama, surprisingly enough, we never had a problem
That's
there.
crazy.
I can't
That's
figure
fried.
it out.
That's hilarious. That's so weird. That's so backwards.
Well, a lot of the laws about cannabis started in this country against black people and Mexicans.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
White people would smoke it as a lark. They didn't even care.
They didn't care at all.
Only if your white girlfriend was smoking it in a scene that they didn't like, then they'd come raid it.
Exactly.
But
real quick, where do you feel like the cannabis industry is now compared to where it used to be? Or like, because I feel like you've seen, or at least you were the front fucking line of like, this is what we're doing. And now you see the progress of where it is now. What?
Well, Walter, that's amazing that you asked that, because the truth is that we knew it was not only a great recreational thing, but we knew it had medicinal properties.
So you were ahead of the time before even the scientists.
Oh my God!
You knew that, the Big Steve PreRoll was going to fucking get you.
The indigenous people in Mexico, who were friends of ours, were a thing going when we had to get weed from there. They grew this amazing, beautiful lime green weed with red seed caps, and oh my God, it was strong. It was so strong.
Yeah.
Now, weed had seeds in those days.
Of
That's
course.
the meal, it wasn't even invented.
Yeah.
So we kept all the seeds, right? And then when Nixon made a law, he called it Operation Intercept. He shut down the Mexican border because he hated hippies and he hated.
I was going to say there was a
So he
attack
put it
against
as
hippies, right?
Schedule 1 narcotic. That means it's useless to the world. It's worse than heroin.
Yep.
He blew our minds.
Yep.
He started the DEA, and they went to him and he told, go out and investigate it. This is the truth, man.
I didn't know he started the DEA though. You put me on.
Well, there was
game
a
with
Bureau of Narcotics before that.
Yeah.
It started in 1934. Now, guess what? Liquor became legal again in 1933, so the man needed something to go after.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
chose marijuana.
Exactly.
March and Ash represents all done with all that shit. Come, buy your weed, get what you want, have knowledgeable people help you with it, And if you have a place, that's a dream come true. you get some clarity. You don't have to go out and experiment.
Exactly.
They'll tell you what you need and what you want to.
And it's good music, good looking people. So before we get out of here, Steve, because I love talking with you. We're gonna have to get you on another episode. We're gonna figure that out next time you're in town. What's next for Steve Parish in the coming years? And because you said you're in your 70s, but you're still moving strong, working hard, moving around. What's next for Steve?
Well, lots of stuff.
We collaborating. We got
we collaborate. You and I have some ideas for us, but I go out and still keep it out there in the public. And Bob Weir, dear friend of mine, we're the youngest guys. He was the youngest band guy. I was the youngest crew guy. We are executive producers on a book I wrote. We're trying to put that out.
Okay.
As a television episodic thing.
Ooh.
We tried to make it of a movie, but there's so much stuff that you can tell.
You got streaming now, so
it's 13 episodes. But anyway, so that's working on that. And then also we're still very much involved. Grizzly Peak is my heart, is right there, and it's such a great company. They were the ones I realized right away when they came around and asked me to back their stuff. I said, this is different than everything.
Yeah.
And Grizzly Peak is a place that we used to go to get high in Oakland, man.
That's hilarious. So it's full circle moment. It's a full circle moment.
And so many people brought weed, but it takes years and years to learn how to grow
get
pot,
exactly,
how to cure it, and how to smoke it.
And do it the right way.
And so when that is now done for you, when you get what's here, it's picked and choose through a lot of filters. I'm very proud of our product.
I'm proud of it too. Can I see one more time for the camera?
You can.
The Big Steve PreRoll, Grizzly Peak. Last question. What made you name it the Big Steve PreRoll? How did they come
Steve
up with
was
that?
always my nickname, and in those days, 6'4" was big. Now my son is 6'6". I never thought I'd have a kid bigger than me.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's a doctor, by the way, my son. And he smoked pot around the Grateful Dead his whole life.
That's wild.
And he is a doctor at L.A. Children's Hospital and really does a great job.
That's fire.
But I'm just saying that there's no limitations. Pot does not slow you down in the brain.
Cannabis.
It doesn't kill your memory. It doesn't do any of the lies they started telling about it.
Exactly.
That's all came from the nastiness of the DEA because Nixon made him do it. They recommended making it legal. They told him it was harmless. But he was
and he was ready. That's what they do.
He hated the people that weren't voting for him.
And didn't want to go to war. Yep. We gotta get out of here because I think
goodbye.
You famous, man.
I thought we had some time.
You famous, man. They need you. You want it. You want it in these streets.
Well, I'm ready now, but thank you.
Where can we find you, Steve? Where can people find you, listen to you, follow you, all of the good things now?
I got a show on Sirius Radio on the Grateful Dead channel.
Grateful Dead channel.
Every Thursday it's live at 2 p.m. West Coast. It goes across the country and it's repeated across the week. And the beautiful people of the Deadheads, this amazing thing we created, gives back all the time.
I love that.
And they call in and ask me questions. These young people want to know, what was it like? What was that like? How did you do it? And so
young people like me.
I try to educate everybody to what our lives were like because we were pioneers and didn't even know
That's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. Like you were literally creating history every day and just moving on and trailblazing. And now we're here. And I feel like the sky is the limit because you made them sacrifices and had to hang on that chain, like you said earlier. Everything you had to do.
I'm telling you, Walter, it was destiny. You don't even know what your life is really made about. You think you do, but we ended up going around the whole world. We're the only band that ever played at the Great Pyramids in Egypt and stayed there for 3 weeks with those people. And they had some pot and hash.
We are fucking starting the next podcast with that episode.
The seeds I brought back from that are the basis of the Egyptian Kush that's in this.
I love that. That's a great way to exit.
That goes back to the pharaohs. I'm not kidding, because when we went to the Cairo Museum, King Tut was buried with pot seeds.
What the fuck? Well, first off, Egyptians smoke weed, so it's crazy that Big Steve had to come tell me about Egyptians getting high, because I thought
not
I knew
only
about
that,
Africa.
the land of Canaan is for cannabis. That's what that whole area was. The strongest hashes came from the Bekaa Valley, all throughout Lebanese, red Lebanese and gold Lebanese. But then the wars stopped that.
Everything messed that up. Messed that up. Anything you want to tell everybody before we get out of here, Big Steve? Last words?
Oh, yeah. You can
Advice?
read my book, Home Before Daylight, if you want to hear more of what I'm talking about. You also can listen to the Big Steve show, and we talk about all these questions. It's channel 23 on the Sirius channel, and a Grateful Dead channel. And
Social medias?
excuse me?
Social media?
Well, yeah, bigsteve.com, all that stuff. Stephen Walter Comedy Routines.com.
Yep. We're
Check
gonna have
us
to
on
get. I'm gonna
that
have to
too.
get you on that comedy.
You and me would be just good. We do
We're gonna have
this
to do that.
naturally. We'll make people laugh.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you,
Because you
yeah.
got a sense of humor that I like, man.
I appreciate that.
Sorry we have a busy day today.
I know.
I could stay and talk to you all day.
Your ass famous. That's what I'm
And we'll
saying.
do
I'm
that
trying to get to
sometime.
that level. So, but seriously, Big Steve, I really appreciate the time. I really appreciate the motivation. Make sure you guys go out and buy the Big Steve PreRoll at March and Ash locations worldwide soon. Find us all around San Diego. My name is Walter Ford. This has been the Hilariously Blunt podcast. We'll check y'all out on all streaming services. Shout out to March and Ash again.
Hilarious Blunt.
Hilariously Blunt.
They're changing it on it every time for me, trying to mess up an old roadie.
Catching your high ass.
Got to remember, we're up here at 6 a.m. right now. And so I'm trying to put my words together one at a time. Next time I see you, we're going to be lower in the day.
Exactly. And a little bit
But
higher.
thank you so much for your hospitality, Walter. You're great. It's been a pleasure meeting everyone from Hilariously Blunt because they are my people, and I knew right away. And when you see that in somebody, you know. And if you're smoking cannabis, it opens up your receptors to brotherhood and friendship, and you can tell right away you're with your people. So go to March and Ash, go to Hilariously Blunt, enjoy life, man. Those are the places we got now. What a life. My thing on the radio is no left turn unstoned. And so that's the way I live my life.
And that's a good way to end. This is a Hilariously Blunt podcast. Appreciate y'all. See y'all soon.
This episode was produced by Olas Media Podcast Network in San Diego, California, with Elia Ramos as creative director, Jessica Garcia as project manager, JC Polk as executive producer, Lina Alvarez as associate producer, and Chad Pease as president and co-founder.
Thank you for listening to Hilariously Blunt with Walter Ford, presented by March and Ash. For more, visit us online at olasmedia.com, and don't forget to subscribe where you download your favorite podcasts. In case you suffer from short-term memory loss, let me repeat that for you. Visit Hilariously Blunt with Walter Ford online at olasmedia.com, and after you subscribe, puff, puff, pass it along to a friend. Okay, I'll stop. Olas Media.